Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to answer a very good question in the comments about using Twitter, because there's a lot to it really. But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button so you stay notified. So, question was put to me about using Twitter. So they referenced my reasons for using Twitter for the channel, but I'll discuss that as well in this video. But asked me why I still use Twitter links and why I have a public account on Twitter, but which I assume they mean an account which is not anonymous. Now, this is a really good question. I gave an answer. It's not really something which is satisfactorily answered in a short paragraph. Now, I suppose there are three elements to this, linked to my three relationships with Twitter on the channel. The biggest one would be why I use Twitter at all. But as the poser of the question understands my reasons, I'll leave that until last for others watching this video who don't know. The second element is my use of Twitter links as references in my descriptions. And the third, which is implied, I think, is potentially my linking of my Twitter handle in the banner on this and all of my long form videos. So let's do the last two first. I think they'll be quicker anyway. So using Twitter links is quite straightforward. This channel is political commentary. I am offering up my perspectives, my opinions, but I don't just offer up opinions. I know some people do. I try to make every effort to explain how those opinions were formed. So the way I do that is I begin with a fact and then explain the journey from that fact to my conclusion, which is my opinion. But for other people to follow my line of thinking, they're also going to need to satisfy themselves as to the facts it's anchored on. What if I claim something as a fact and it's not a fact? So I need to cite references where possible. Now, sometimes it's not possible. So not all of my videos have links to anything. It's something I've personally seen or heard for which there is no handy little URL. But where it is based on an online news article or a social media post, then there's a really easy URL I can just link. So I link that so people can verify for themselves if they choose to. And as the best social media platform for experts and policy influencers has always been Twitter, that basically means I'm posting a lot of Twitter links. This is because although a lot of people have left Twitter for Blue Sky, the majority is still there. I can't really base my opinion on something someone said if I can't prove it. Now, sometimes, as I say, I can't prove it. I just saw it on a stream of an interview or something. And unlike Farooq or Haggis, I'm not clipping it. But sometimes I saw the clip either posted by one of those two or the original author. And so I can link that so people can see it for themselves. It's not a promotion of Twitter. It's an acknowledgement that people are still on Twitter. At the point at which they're on Blue Sky, then there'll be Blue Sky links. Sometimes they are. And the same is sort of true of why my Twitter handle is in the description below. Sometimes I retweet something noteworthy, but I don't make a video about it. So for those people who are still on Twitter and still follow me there, I can at least bring a few little tidbits to their attention when I don't have the time to produce a video on it. Again, I'm not going to produce a video, even a short video, on everything I retweet, even if I think it's interesting. I'm not encouraging people to use Twitter to follow what I'm saying. I use YouTube to say things. I don't really say a lot on Twitter anyway, never have, occasionally. I use it to follow experts, interesting people, and policy influencers. And so most of my engagement is in the form of retweets of useful points being made by someone else. Then there's the bigger question about using Twitter in the first place. So there are a few parallels to things like this. For example, you could have anti-capitalist campaigners who have a YouTube channel. Are they hypocrites? No, they just have to exist in the real world. It's a capitalist world. And they have to swim in that sea if they are to get their message out. Same with people who disapprove of having an unelected House in Parliament, who take up a seat in the House of Lords. They're just working with the system they have, or the SNP in the House of Commons. They don't want to be part of the House of Commons. They want Holyrood to be the only parliament deciding laws in Scotland, but they work with the existing system. Or politicians in general who write for news outlets that they don't like and we'd rather they didn't. They're not supporting those newspapers. They're getting a message to their readers. In fact, very often they're undermining those newspapers with that message, because people who vote often read newspapers. And it's the same with Twitter for me. I commentate on politics. I try to point out the details which are not being reported on. I try to point out where something that is being reported on is misleading, or even just straight up lying sometimes. But I can't do that without information. And the starting information I always need is what people who are influencing policy or public attitudes, which of course itself influences policy, which includes gobshites in the media, I need to know what they're doing and saying. And I don't have a network of informants, so I need to see for myself, or at least see first-hand reports myself. So I have subscriptions to lots of media outlets, including some that I wouldn't were it not for my task, such as The Telegraph. I need to know what they're writing in order to show how they're trying to con the public, so that we can see the trajectory of what they're working towards, as I did for my first video today on how the ground is being laid to strip away the state pension. Couldn't do that without a subscription to The Telegraph. Mind you, I do draw the line at some publications. Like if The Sun puts something behind a paywall, I'll miss out because there are limits. And lots of people who are influential on public opinion and government policy are very active on Twitter, but not anywhere else. Ministers, MPs in general, mainstream media journalists, commentators, charities, unions, other lobby groups, legal experts, NGOs. There's a lot being said on Twitter, which I would have no idea about if I relied only on mainstream media reporting, after they filtered it all to say what they wanted to say. If Twitter were banned in the UK, I would be fine with that. I might miss some information on foreign matters, but British-based experts and policy influencers would possibly migrate to Blue Sky, and then I could adapt to that. But until that happens, Blue Sky only has a small proportion of all the people whose comments are important to catch if you want to make sense of the political scene. Take today's big news, the settlement from Murdoch's media group with Prince Harry and Tom Watson. If it weren't for Twitter, I wouldn't really know what's happened there. All I'd be able to see is the reporting, and most of the reporting is very selective. And the thing is as well about Blue Sky, if we're honest, it's disproportionate. The people who have moved there, it's disproportionately those people who don't really influence policy or public opinion all that much. So my leaving Twitter wouldn't be boycotting Twitter. I don't give them money anyway. In fact, they actually spend money throttling my posts. But it wouldn't be a boycott. It would just be me diluting further the propagation of facts and some decent talking points, because I would also not be retweeting those who are trying to fight for it. But then let's follow this idea through to its logical conclusion. So you leave Twitter. Zuckerberg didn't take much persuading to fall into line. So that's Facebook, Instagram and Threads as well. Now, I don't personally really use those, so no great problem for me, but it could be for others. But let's say MAGA see that their long-term survival needs a plan which extends beyond Trump's useful lifespan and charisma. The ultra-wealthy have already bought up most of the press and broadcast media because they're the only ones who can afford to do so, and they have been mostly using it to push their own agenda for generations. But social media is the new Wild West. Musk has shown the way. What if Trump's government doesn't just encourage other platforms to follow suit, but actively forces them? Trump is already talking about having American state control of TikTok so that it can be trusted. What he means is so it can be co-opted. Well, okay, I don't use TikTok either, but again, some do. But what if it extends to YouTube? I then, stop commentating? Go back to teach and accept that the far right controls all lines of communication to the public, the press, the broadcast media, and now social media, with absolutely zero fightback? Because I can see a few downsides to that approach. Mind you, if it does happen, I may have to go back to teaching anyway, because that could throttle the views down below to the point where it'll make enough money. But, you know, I would still intend to stay and say whatever I could with the time allowed to those who came across the content. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.